Let's hear what this has to say.
Everybody know what I'm about to talk to you about happened before October 7th. I'm going to talk about radicalism on college campuses. Sort of radicalism that has mainstream students getting propaganda, whether it's from their professors or whether it's from communist Chinese government through TikTok.
How is this any different than literally Fox News? Is a question I am going to keep asking myself over and over again. How is Morning Joe any different?
Calling the President of the United States Genocide Joe. Calling you and President Clinton war criminals. Actually stopping the naming of a building after Madeleine Albright.
Bro, what are you talking about? She's a war criminal who literally said 500,000 dead Iraqis as a consequence of sanctions that her husband put in place, by the way. You're literally talking to another war criminal psychopath about another war criminal psychopath. Madeleine Albright famously said 500,000 dead Iraqi children is just the cost of doing business. She was directly asked, the sanctions that we are placing on Iraq has led to 500,000 dead Iraqi children, to which her response was, that's the cost of doing business. He's asking a war criminal to defend another war criminal. Yup.
That 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
We think the price is worth it. These demons are why I hope in my heart that maybe there is a hell and a heaven, and I hope that they are burning in eternal damnation.
This woman made history, just like you made history.
Doing war crimes, Joe. Made history doing war crimes. We saw he died.
Mainstream college students, I know, because I've talked to a lot of college students over the past year or two, and they have this radicalized view of the Middle East, a radicalized view of American public.
Why aren't these children just as rabidly Islamophobic as we are? What is going on? Why aren't these kids just as Islamophobic as we are? How are we losing sight of the expert propagandizing that we once were committed to? I don't know, man. Maybe because all of these kids that you're talking about were born after 9/11 and they didn't actually develop a consciousness in that time frame where they were also just as rabidly Islamophobic and just kind of saw that as like background noise, especially the many L's that America took post 9/11. Maybe that's the reason why they're not as feverish, you monster. Oh my God, I hate these scumbags so much. How do we get these kids to be just as racist? Please give me the take here. I need to understand. Why are these children and these kids and these college students saying like relentless baby murder is not permissible? I hate that. We got to get this TikTok out of here.
Can name Republican presidents as well. It's distressing. What do we do about it so public servants aren't taught that American leaders are war criminals and that Joe Biden's not Genocide Joe?
He's literally mad that younger generations have the correct view. All of these screechings of the media class about issues such as this one, by the way, are basically going against the spirit of democracy. They talk a big game about how they love free speech and how they love discourse and how discourse should thrive in a normal functioning democracy. And then they literally turn around and they're just mad that the kids are correct. Why are they calling our presidents war criminals? What happened? What happened to America? We used to be a nation. I don't know, bitch. Maybe you should give people something to be proud of, and then maybe they'll be more proud of America's accomplishments. It's ridiculous. Kids these days, the next generation, and my generation as well, have nothing to look forward to. Why the should they be proud of America? Like, all we have seen in our development is endless and senseless death and destruction overseas, and the inevitable consequence of said senseless death and destruction. No money in the banana stand for healthcare, the roads, education, no public transit. Life is getting more and more costly, more expensive. No dream of being able to own a home or be able to retire at a reasonable age. No sense of autonomy, no sense of security. Why aren't these kids dick riding America? They can get their burgers. It's like, what the have you given us? What has your generation given us to be proud of? Nothing. Nothing. Why the should they be proud? You're mad that they're not dumbasses like your freak-ass generation was. Why aren't these kids more lead poisoned like our generation is, and more aggressive and more violent and stupid? I can't believe it. I can't believe they're seeing the truth of the American project for what it is. A bunch of different corporations with imperial ambitions of global dominance that does not reflect positively in the in-group either.
If the communist Chinese will allow it to get on YouTube, please tell any students watching what President Clinton and you put together in 2000.
Dude. This is literally Morning Joe is just straight up Fox News, dude. Straight up Fox News. Isn't it wonderful that this is the one program that Joe Biden watches? Just absolutely unhinged. China controls YouTube. Qatar controls the kids' minds because Al Jazeera. These are the same scumbags that will, in the inevitable turn, when Donald Trump does become president of our glorious nation, will turn around and be like, why are you guys doing conspiracy theories? Remember those ads from like early 2016, 2017, 2018, like New York Times would do ads like, this is an apple, but some people think it's an orange, but it's actually an apple. This is why truth matters. This is what the liberal media has become under the Brandon regime. Remember, MSNBC is supposed to be the liberal version of Fox News.
Oslo Accords, you gave the Palestinians a pathway to peace, and they were scared to take it because they knew they would be slaughtered by Hamas.
That's so funny that this ahistorical nonsense is still being repeated by Morning Joe, even though I've showed on this broadcast time and time again how hard he got owned. Zbigniew Brzezinski, his father-in-law, on this exact issue. I'm not going to do it again, as I've shown you time and time again. That is 4 minutes of sloppy toppy gawk guac 3000 suckmaster 11 that you just saw from Joe Scarborough. Holy dude, that boy could suck the chrome out of the tailpipe. He's got a mouth that won't quit. He's got the spirit, dude. Hillary getting back at Bill with this incredible amount of public dome that she's receiving, maybe not in the Oval Office, but at least in front of many, many Americans on Morning Joe, including certified throat goat. It's looking like the oral office right now. Joe would put Nancy Reagan to shame.
First of all, I have had many conversations, as you have had, with a lot of young people over the last many months now. And you're right. They don't know very much at all about the history of the...
Yeah, in the process of sucking their spinal cord fluid to ensure that me and my pedophilic vampire husband remain alive to see the continuation of the Israeli apartheid ethnic cleansing campaign, we were talking to them before we killed them and sucked the spinal fluid directly out of their spine, straight to the goddamn dome for that delicious adrenochrome. Talk to them. Don't think you're scared of arguing against her, but you don't think a significant amount of younger voters refusing to vote over Israel-Palestine is indicative of not understanding what someone like Trump would do in office? You and I do not see the world in the same exact ways. If you have this kind of attitude, you think that the Democratic Party is entitled to people's votes. I do not, because I actually understand how politics works. You, on the other hand, are a relentless dick rider of the Democratic Party who believes they are entitled to people's votes because of lesser evil voting. Whether I agree with lesser evil voting or not doesn't matter, because Americans demonstrably do not vote on lesser evil voting margins. They do not care about lesser evil voting. That is why the plurality in this country historically doesn't vote for either party. The plurality of eligible voters in this country does not vote for either party. Now, obviously, this is a more complicated situation than simply not having like a decent elected representative to vote for. However, that is a major part of the problem. If the Democratic Party genuinely made efforts to capture broader swaths of the voter eligible population while simultaneously opening up easier ways of voting against the Republican efforts to stop people from voting, especially poor people and young people, people of color in general, then perhaps they would have an easier time with these elections. They should have an easier time with elections. The problem on this issue, however, as far as like Israel-Palestine goes, and you are talking to someone who has laid a big amount of the blame in Trump administration's mishandling of Israel-Palestine, okay, especially for October 7, but one that also recognizes that we currently don't have Donald Trump in office. We currently have Joe Biden in office. And Joe Biden, perhaps also channeling that same exact idiotic sentiment that many Democratic wonks channel, that like people should of course vote for us. We're not bad as the other guys. Duh. You should do a little bit of reading, sweetie, and learn that like Trump would be so much worse. Don't recognize that Joe Biden is pretty awful right now, and he shouldn't be awful, just in an effort to show Americans it is actually different under a Democratic administration in comparison to a Republican one. Joe Biden is repeating the exact same that the Trump administration did in an effort to stop people from protesting against Israel right now. Peaceful protesters all around the country are getting brutalized by the police for the crime peacefully declaring Israel an apartheid regime and criticizing our involvement in Israel's apartheid and also Israel's current ethnic cleansing campaign. The idea that voters are going to think critically beyond this and go, you know what, this administration that keeps telling me that like they are better than the Trump administration, that completely adopted the Trump administration's very own right-wing white nativist immigration policies, that also was engaging in the same kind of suppression of free speech and public demonstration, this time for the crime of saying never again means never again. We should not have blood in our hands, Palestinian children's blood in our hands specifically. Why the f are we funding and facilitating this ethnic cleansing campaign? Those people getting violently and brutally suppressed by the police. Those people should turn around and just simply vote for the Democratic Party because like we promised that the Democratic Party is going to be better.
So this is a very important piece of history to understand if you're going to take any kind of position with respect to what's going on right now. And there's much more that we could go into, as you say, since 1948, but I mean, you could literally go back thousands of years. The important point I want to emphasize, though, is...
Isn't it easier to move the needle further left with libs in power? Not easy, but easier at least. Yeah, it's so easy right now to move the needle a little bit to the left of like what the right-wing Republican position is. Notice how it hasn't been easy at all. Notice how it hasn't happened. What happened? Oh, Biden will listen to the demands made by the left far better than Donald Trump will. Yeah, dude, totally. That really has happened so far.
Against false narratives, against demagogic wannabe authoritarian leaders. Shame on us. But let's not forget people who helped us get to where we are and where I hope we will always be here in this country. And Madeleine Albright was certainly one of those whom I admire greatly.
Bro, it's so funny that they're like literally demanding protests be killed, as Joe has been, while simultaneously saying like, oh man, the other side are the fascist authoritarians. It's like the only difference between you and Donald Trump is that like you're just more pro-gay. You're demanding media literacy while decrying students have perhaps learned too much in a way that is no different than what the right-wing Republicans claim about CRT. Is so stupid. There's more clashes on
now
college
to the new
campuses.
clashes on college campuses across the country, including arrests just moments ago at the University of Pennsylvania. Victor Okendo is tracking the very latest.
These are the people that are protesting these horrifying images that you've seen. And how are we here in the United States of America dealing with those who say this is unconscionable? We must do something. We must put an end to this. Well, you'll see how they're dealing with it.
For us. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Michael. Around the country this morning, tensions ratcheting up across college campuses. Let's start at the University of Arizona, where they're gearing up for their graduation ceremony later today. Law enforcement spraying what appears to be tear gas on roughly 100 protesters gathered by the university's main gate. This is the second time this month chemical irritants have been used to disperse protesters on campus. At George Washington University in D.C., hundreds of protesters gathering on a street that includes the home of the president of the university, shutting down traffic and setting up tents. This comes just one day after police cleared the encampment on campus. And here in Los Angeles at the University of Southern California, after canceling the university's official school-wide graduation, the university opting for what they called a celebration at the Memorial Coliseum. Students, instead of walking on stage and getting a diploma, they were treated to a drone and fireworks show.